So yesterday something happened, and it was Cuba that happened to kill four people on a speedboat that came from Florida and was registered to the US. This is interesting because number 1, this is suspicious as hell. All right? Number 2, the US response to this leads me to indicate or leads me to kind of believe that there was some kind of U.S. involvement, whether it's the CIA or some other agency within the federal government. It's just, it's too perfect. All right, perfect in the sense that like most operations that we attempt, like covert or just not official military operations that we try to do to Cuba or even Venezuela back in Trump's first term, they are normally comic failures. Like for some reason, especially when it comes to Cuba, we are unable to do anything, like anything at all. Like it's kind of humorous in a way, but also sad that the fact that like we have deemed Cuba as our sworn enemy and are currently starving them and have had an embargo on them for decades now. But anyways, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but we're gonna read this article from the AP, and I just let me know what you think. But like, how? The fact that the U.S. hasn't leveled Havana just in response to this, just it raises a lot of red flags. Like, I'm glad they're not. I'm glad they're not because we have no business with Cuba. We should have normalized relations with them. Trump should have never ripped that up. Biden should have got us back into it at the beginning of his term. But that's where we are. So this is from the AP. Cuba says 4 killed in speedboat shooting were attempting to infiltrate the country. Cuba's government said late Wednesday that the 10 passengers on a boat that opened fire on its soldiers were armed Cubans living in the U.S. who were trying to infiltrate the island and unleash terrorism. The announcement came hours after Cuba said its soldiers killed 4 people and wounded 6 others aboard a Florida-registered speedboat that had entered Cuban waters and opened fire on the soldiers first, injuring 1 Cuban officer. Like, if you're going to infiltrate a country, maybe the first thing, like maybe you should do it at like, I don't know what time of day this took place, but maybe you should do it at night, and maybe you shouldn't open fire while you're still in a boat in the water at random soldiers. I'm no expert in covert operations, but like, come on now. Cuba's government said the majority of the 10 people on the boat have a known history of criminal and violent activity. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had told reporters earlier that he was made aware of the incident and that the U.S. is now gathering its own information to determine if the victims were American citizens or permanent residents. The Cuban government identified 2 of the boat passengers as Amigel Sanchez Gonzalez and Leorden Enrique Cruz Gomez, I'm probably butchering these names, so I apologize, who are wanted by Cuban authorities based on their involvement in the promotion, planning, organization, financing, support, or commission of actions carried out in the national territory or in other countries in connections with acts of terrorism. The government said it also had arrested Daniel Hernandez Santos, adding that he was sent from the United States to guarantee the reception of the armed infiltration, who at this time has confessed to his actions. And here you can see the passengers that identified 7 of the 10 passengers, their names here, and also the ones that were killed. Mizio Ortega Casanova, brother of Michelle Ortega Casanova, told the Associated Press late Wednesday that he was mourning his brother's death, but lamented that he fell into what he called an obsessive and diabolical quest for Cuba's freedom. Only us Cubans who have lived over there understand, Mizio Ortega Casanova said, referring to the great suffering that he and other Cubans on the island have faced. Dude, there's something so brain broken about like Cubans who came to the US that like they can't comprehend that the reasons that the conditions of Cuba are the way they are is not because of the communist government. It's because of the United States and the permanent embargo that we have placed on them for decades. Like, how do you expect a country, especially a country right in the ass cheeks of the United States, that is embargoed, cut off from most of the world economy, who doesn't have nowhere near all the resources to sustain themselves domestically? How do you expect that government to thrive when they have the most powerful country in the world 90 miles off their coast, cutting them off from the entire world, trying to assassinate their leaders and infiltrate their government for decades? How do you expect that country to thrive? Okay? This, like, you might say, oh, you're just a white guy living in the U.S. Well, these are fucking Cubans living in the U.S. I don't care if you came from there, but if you're living in the United States right now, I don't think you comprehend what you're asking for when you want Cuba to be freed. What you're asking for is another Afghanistan or another Iraq. Like, these people don't have a concept that foreign intervention, especially by the United States, never ends well. And it will result in bombs being dropped on all of your fellow Cuban brethren. But you feel so comfy and comfortable living in Florida or whatever, wherever the fuck, just advocating for your country to be bombed. Mazel said that he did not recognize any of the names that the Cuban government released. He said that while he doesn't believe in heroes because that is ignorance, you know a lot about that, sir. He hopes that his brother's death might be a worthwhile sacrifice. Maybe it will justify that someday Cuba will be free. Okay, I'm not even going to pretend I'm not trying to be an asshole here, but like, your brother's death was not a worthwhile sacrifice. It was buffoonish, it was stupid, and it was most likely orchestrated by the federal government, using him or your brother and the others as pawns. So this to further justify the U.S. bombing Cuba and continuing to clamp down on them economically and starve them. A highly unusual shootout. U.S. President Donald Trump's top diplomat refused to speculate on what happened, saying that it could be a wide range of things and that the U.S. will not solely rely on what the Cuban authorities have provided thus far. Suffice it to say, it is highly unusual to see shootouts in open sea like that. It's not something that happens every day. It's something, frankly, that hasn't happened with Cuba in a very long time, Rubio said. The person whose family came from Cuba, but he likes to pretend that they didn't and they came from Europe. He said it was not a U.S. government operation, then that he wasn't going to speculate about what or whose boat it was, what they were doing, and why they were there, what actually happened. The fact that he came out and he's like, this wasn't a U.S. government operation. And the fact that he's like kind of like dancing around it, like, let's just wait, I'm not going to make any claims. This is not how Marco Rubio and the State Department and the current Trump administration operates. All right. If this was some random incident, they would be exploding they would be like, oh my God, we need to nuke Cuba now. We need to nuke them now. But like, the fact that these people got caught so brazenly, they're like, I don't know. We didn't do it. We didn't do it. Believe me, we did not do it. This is suspicious as hell. Suspicious as hell. I'm sorry. Rubio said that he found out about the shooting before the Cuban government posted on social media, noting that the U.S. has constant contact with the country at the Coast Guard level. And U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said late Wednesday afternoon that Rubio had briefed him on the incident. He added that the White House was monitoring the situation. Hopefully it's not as bad as we fear it could be, Vance said. What does that even mean? What do you mean? 4 people died. 6 others were injured. What do you mean? Hopefully it's not as bad as we fear. Like, what? Are you actually going to use this as a justification to go bomb Havana? Like, who fucking knows with these people? The shooting threatens to increase tensions between the U.S. and Cuba following the ouster of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Trump and top administration officials have taken an increasingly aggressive stance towards Cuba, which has been largely kept economically afloat by Venezuelan oil. And yeah, the reason that they were kept economically afloat by Venezuela's oil is because that was one of their few trading partners. All right? Because we, the big bully that we are, cut them off from some Cold War era gripes and the fact that they're still a communist government. Like, the concept of communism has just, like, I can't believe we are reliving the Red Scare in 2026. People, honest to God, on both sides of the aisle believe that communism is some evil ideology and that communism always fails. It's not possible. Socialism always fails. It's not possible. Not realizing that every example they point to are countries that we have essentially toppled or just sanctioned and embargoed economically. But we just ignore the fact that China, being ruled by the Communist Chinese Party, they're thriving. They are eating our lunch. Meanwhile, James Uthmeyer, oh God, literal Nazi, actual Nazi, has the name to also fit it. This is the guy who was the architect of Alligator Alcatraz. If you remember that concentration camp from last year built in the Everglades of Florida. He was the architect behind that. He ordered prosecutors to work with the federal, state, and law enforcement partners to start an investigation. The Cuban government cannot be trusted, and we will do everything in our power to hold these communists accountable. He's a Nazi, man. He's a Nazi. You were the architect of Alligator Alcatraz. You were one of the biggest reasons that it came to fruition. And here you are being like, we need to hold these communists accountable. Doug, the Red Scare's over. The Cold War's over. You're sounding like a Nazi talking about the USSR. Like, Jesus Christ. Hold these communists accountable. Do you even know what communism is? Do you even have the slightest clue of what communism is? Jesus Christ. These people are so dumb, and they just wear it on their sleeve. Like, look how dumb I am. Like, oh. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Free Cuba, save Cuba. There is not enough punishment that this country will ever receive for the inexplicable actions that we have caused and around the world. Just Jesus Christ. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.